But what I'm asking is kind of simpler. I mean, let me ask real simple questions. One, did the U.S. government and did the issuance of the June 27th travel alert, did the U.S. government have any reason to believe that there would be an attack on June 28th or upcoming?
No. And that was the second part of my answer, that if we had, and I realize there's a range of quote unquote products that we put out on behalf of or for the American traveler. A travel warning is a travel warning. If we had information, credible information about an imminent threat or a developing situation, even if it wasn't a terrorist attack, but any, a natural disaster looming, what we'd use is an emergency message. And that is reserved, as I said, for imminent events or threats that may require immediate action on behalf of U.S. citizens. That could be violent demonstrations, that could be, as I said, civil disturbances, natural disasters. And we did, after the attack, issue an emergency message immediately once we had.
But my question is even simpler. Okay. It's like, did you have any reason to expect an imminent threat in Turkey on Monday?
So, okay, and my answer is, and I'm sorry I haven't been clear on this, we did not have, as I said, kind of imminent or actionable intelligence.
Got it. Okay, so then second question, and again, I think it's a simple question. You state on March 29th that there's increased threats of attacks by terrorist groups in Turkey, and you state exactly the same thing. There's increased threats of terrorist actions by attacks by terrorist groups on June 27th. Were there more threats on June 27th than there had been, or was the threat level any higher? Was there any increase in the number of threats on June 27th than there had been in March?
So my answer to that is, I'm not going to discuss necessarily specific details of the threat information we have, except, as I said, in the case of when we had actionable intelligence that a given site was going to be targeted. I can say that we would reiterate the language in our latest travel warning for Turkey, which did note increased threats from terrorist groups.
But here's
to U.S. citizens.
Before you ever issued a travel warning for Turkey, or increased from the previous travel warning? Where the increase
my understanding
is
that it was increased from the previous travel warning.
Increased from the previous travel warning. Okay, so that's helpful because that at least helps us understand a little better. Okay, and lastly, why not try to make more explicit the difference between the travel warning from June and the travel warning from March? I mean, it seems to me that American citizens would have benefited from knowing on Monday that there was even more threats than there had been in March. I mean, why not make that clear? We're issuing this because there's even more threats out there than there were in our last one, which was issued on what, that just seems to me you're giving the citizenry more information. Why not do that rather than forcing all of us to do this Talmudic reading of the last one and the current one, and then not actually understanding till 48 hours later what the difference is?
Well, again, I don't want to draw necessarily a link between the issuance of this travel warning and yesterday's tragic attack at Ataturk Airport. I think this vehicle, which is the travel warning, is simply a way to periodically update the American public on where we stand, how we assess the security of a given country.
But it's just kind of a practical question.
Yeah.
Maybe there's an answer, but I don't understand why you wouldn't give people more information if you have it. And you said it's your understanding that there was more threat information as of, or more
and I'll
threats.
double check on that. If there was, because
Shouldn't Americans know that?
of course, and that's why this vehicle exists.